It's actually how I got the job was walking out of an interview. Part of our mission, I think, is to talk about sales in a more positive way. And in sales, we fail more than we win. Over half of salespeople are awful. I'm motivated by money and success. Some people are motivated by learning and being part of something that's bigger than them.
What is your definition of winning?
Everybody wins.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to The Business Game.
A podcast that moves the needle.
Okay, before we jump back in, a quick shout out to SmoothX. Imagine all your business platforms talking to each other seamlessly. Accounting, CRMs, project management software. That's exactly what SmoothX does. Their integrations save you time, reduce errors, and keep your data accurate across the board.
The best part? Getting started is fast and easy. Their onboarding takes less than 30 minutes, so you can be fully operational in no time. And if you want to support the show while exploring SmoothX for your business, check out the link in the description.
SmoothX makes life simpler, smarter, and way more efficient. All right, back to the episode. Hello and welcome to The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle. I'm Steve Plummer.
And I'm Kalena, Stano.
Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Today we're joined by Walter Crosby, CEO of Helix Sales Development and host of Sales and Cigars podcast. Hi Walter, how are you going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. And look, a warm welcome and thank you very much for your time today. So to kick us off, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company and what you do.
At heart, I'm a sales guy. I've been a sales guy for 40 years. So that's just how my brain works. That's how I think. But I run a sales development agency. My goal is to really help salespeople elevate their game and help CEOs provide the structure to create performance on their sales team.
Okay. And let's dive into your origin story, if you like, your background. I'm fascinated because you've got a lot of experience in those 4 odd decades in the sales game. So I'm curious, what was your first experience with sales and how did that shape your approach to what you do now?
Well, I think I get asked this question a lot. I fell backwards into sales, quite honestly. But, you know, when I was a kid, back when there were papers printed on actual newsprint, there were boys and girls that delivered those papers. That was my first gig as a person, and I learned that if you didn't put that paper exactly where that customer wanted it, you heard about it. And so I learned about providing service and being of value to people and understanding that, you know, I made tips. And if I did a good job, I made a lot more money than I did if I didn't. So I kind of parlayed that little paper route business into making about $100 a week as a 13-year-old. And back in the 80s, that was a lot of money for a 13-year-old.
Absolutely.
So, and then I willed that to my brother. He picked it up and screwed it all up, but it's a different story. But my first, what I call big boy job was in New York City. So I was a Midwestern kid and moved to New York without a plan. Some people would say that's dumb, irresponsible, but it's what I did. And I was meeting with a friend's father, and he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I didn't have a great plan. So he suggested that I think about sales, and I didn't have a plan. So I started talking to people about sales when I really didn't, understand what it meant. And I got a job with a Fortune 500 company leasing commercial office space in New York City. That's how I started. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience, let's just say the least.
If I'm not mistaken, you also took that job without any sales training. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, there was, aside from the paper route, and doing some retail jobs and things over time. Yeah, I didn't have any training, and they didn't offer training.
Wow.
The training was basically, there's a desk over there. We'll get you a phone this afternoon, but why are you here? Go out and start canvassing buildings and building a list. And I just had to figure it out on my own. And, there were people that would answer questions, but everybody was trying to earn a living, and they didn't have time for a 24-year-old punk from the Midwest.
Yeah.
So it's actually how I got the job, was walking out of an interview, because the guy wasn't going to hire me, and he was treating me like, he made me sit there for 20 minutes in his office without talking to me. So when I got up and left, he was like, "What do you think you're doing?" I'm like, "Well, you're obviously not ready for this. You didn't plan for it. So I'll just come back some other time." And he told me later that me taking that initiative and being a little bold was the reason he thought I could have success, because if I wasn't going to take any crap from the guy that was going to give me a job, that I might not take any crap from people out on the street. So
Wow.
In those early days and that, I guess, that process without training, did you go through a period of what we now call imposter syndrome, and what the heck am I doing here, and I should just walk away and get some other job? How did that go? Because that's a thrown right into the deep end kind of thing.
Well, when you're thrown into the deep end and you don't have a backup plan, you got to learn to swim really fast. So I just worked harder. I made a lot of mistakes. You would make, back then you would make 400 dials a day, talk to about 5 people. 2 of those would hang up on you. It was just what was done. I didn't know any better. I was just a kid. So I didn't know that there was a system. I didn't know there was training. I didn't know there was you could get that. I just put my head down and did the work because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, what were you anchoring to in terms of like your future goal? Was there something that, I know you had to make a living, you had to survive, but you could just as easily have just gone and got a simpler job that's got consistent pay and a little bit of a different work arrangement. What was it that drove you to push into sales? Was it your love for sales and you just wanted to see how far it could take you?
There was a couple of things. There was the drive to do something that people kept telling me I couldn't do.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
So I got into a good university. My high school counselor said, "Don't apply to the University of Michigan. You're not going to get in." So that was the only school I applied to.
Good job.
I got in and put myself through, graduated. So it was the same thinking. It's not smart. It wasn't well thought through. But there was the ability of sales it's a detective job. You get to do the same thing but differently every day. You get to engage with people. You get immediate feedback from a prospect, especially in New York. So it was just the challenge that kept me going. And at the end of the challenge was a huge opportunity to make money. And at 25, when you're making 6 figures, it's pretty rewarding. So it keeps you going.
Yeah, that's amazing. And with sales, now that you've spent a lot of time and you've had a colorful career in that space, what is it about sales that you attach to most? Is it the ability to sell any sort of product, or is it the ability to connect with different people? And is it more of a human element?
Mm-hmm.
The human element is important. And I look at sales, I've developed into this over the years. It's about helping people.
Yeah, it is.
You persuade people sometimes, and but you need to figure out if you can literally provide value to a prospect, to a buyer. So it's that opportunity to help someone exchange dollars, exchange value, and give them something that they didn't think they could get. That to me is the joy. We all want to get paid, right? That's a big part of it. But there's lots of ways to do that. I just find it incredibly rewarding to sit down with somebody that you don't really know well, develop rapport, develop trust over time, and create a situation where everybody wins, right? The customer wins, the company wins, and you win as an individual. And if you do it right, consistently, and you don't think about it as a transaction, that happens over and over again, and it's addictive.
Yeah. And is there any tips around, for our listeners who might be struggling with the idea of sales? Because we know that sales is one of the key skills to success in any industry. No matter what you want to do in life, having a sales background is a great foundational piece. What would you say are the best places to go in those early days of learning that skill set, with being able to reframe being a salesperson and more of framing it into, I'm here to help these people. I'm here to help this person that I'm.
Yeah, it's a mindset. There's lots of challenges with sales, but I think you have to realize that you have strengths and weaknesses, and if you can improve upon those weaknesses, you're gonna get better faster. So I think everyone, Daniel Pink wrote a book, to Sell is Human, and I think that is something that everybody should read if they're thinking about sales, because everybody in their role in life, whether it be in a family or friendship or business, we're selling. Everybody in a company sells. They sell ideas. They sell the company by answering the phone. Everybody has a role. And if we look at it from a positive perspective and we do away with this used car salesman mentality, because if you ask people, when you say sales or salesperson, the image that pops up into somebody's mind is that, plaid jacket with the short sleeve shirt and the clip-on tie.
Yeah.
And it's a negative thing.
Yes.
So part of our mission, I think, is to talk about sales in a more positive way, talk about it from of helping. And not everybody does that, but we can start to change that conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
I just wanted to dive in on that that mindset piece, Walter. For our listeners who are in sales or leading a business, and maybe they've had a bad day, a bad month, a bad quarter, whatever it might be. What, I guess, around mindset, what tips have you got for keeping going? Because other than just keep going, because like you said, 400 calls, five replies, 2 of which hung up on you. Like, you do that for a week, okay, you can cope with it. You do that for a month, that can get hard and challenging. So for sales pros out there who've had a bad day, or week, or month, or quarter, what are some of the mind hacks or mindset things you can offer that helps them through the tough times? Because nothing is ever all good all the time.
It's not, and in sales we fail more than we win. American baseball, right, is one of the few places that you can go and fail more than you win as a batter, right? Somebody that's batting 300 earns a nice living in baseball, and it's the same in sales. So I think you have to have the right mindset. You have to have the will to sell, right? So there's got to be a desire and commitment to do this, and you need to take responsibility for yourself and that commitment. So if you don't have that, then you're in the wrong profession. If you don't have that basic will to sell. But then it comes to the mindset, and I like to say sales is like golf. The longest distance on a golf course is the 8 inches between our ears. And it's the same in sales. We get in our own way, and it's the self-talk. So to answer your question, when you get down and you have a bad run, however length that is, you need to think about the questions you're asking yourself, and often they become negative. And if you ask yourself, like, why am I so terrible at this? Why do I suck at this? Your brain will find an answer to that question. So the tip is to reframe those questions. what should I do differently? What should I think about differently? What techniques can I try? Where can I get help? Who could I talk to get better? And it's a commitment. It's a grind. It isn't easy. If it was, there would be more people being successful in it. Over half of salespeople are awful. I mean, to be quite frank, the stats are there. And they should think about another role. So it's that mindset of asking yourself the right questions in there. And I think we can get in our way in other ways where as kids we were taught, don't talk to strangers, don't talk about money, that's rude, don't ask a lot of questions, because that's just going to put people in an awkward position. And then some people grow up and become salespeople, and what do we ask them to do? Go talk to strangers, ask a lot of questions, and talk about money. So we have to realize that we're wired up differently than what we need to be in this role. So as a salesperson, it's a role that we play. Not unlike being a father or a brother or sister or a mother, those are separate roles. And in our role as a professional salesperson, we need to think about things in that role. So we should be trying to be respected rather than be liked. We need to be likable, but a lot of people have a desire that we need to be liked by our customers. And that mindset will get us into trouble. And talking about money is rude, right? That's another major issue for salespeople. What they think is a lot of money. They might think $1,000 is a lot of money, and then they have to go sell a $20,000 product. They're going to struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between respect and like? Because it's an interesting point. I think it's a blurred line in many respects. So, from a sales point of view, what does respect look like versus what does like look like versus what does likability look like?
So, we need to be likable in sales. So that means we need to be who we need to be for that buyer. So to be likable, we need to be similar. We need to be familiar. We need to be make our prospect comfortable, right? So that's likable, and that takes skill and patience to get to that point. To be trusted and respected, you earn that. So that takes time. We can build rapport quickly. We can build that to be able to make people feel comfortable. But rapport doesn't equal trust. So we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to say we're going to do X and then do X and do it when we said we're going to do it. Say we did it. So it's a thing that we need to build to. And then the need for approval that need to be liked. We can measure that, and we have to try to move that. And it's possible as a salesperson to change that mindset. So I have zero need for people to like me in a sales role. I want to be respected.
Yeah.
Now I can usually get people I can be likable, and I can build that rapport and eventually build the trust. But I don't need that to be successful. There are a lot of people that do. So once you recognize that that's a challenge, then you can start to see how it affects the conversation you have with a buyer or with a prospect. And then you can start to, little by little, it doesn't happen overnight. But if we don't recognize it, then we can't change it. But if we recognize it and we focus on it, and you have somebody that's coaching you, then you can move forward and reduce that as a weakness and make it more of a strength.
So it's almost shifting the reason for that need to be liked. So being likable is more for the customer to feel comfortable with you because they're in good hands, right? Because you're selling them something that they need and you're creating that space for them. Whereas if you go in with the intention that you need to be liked to fill your own cup, you're going to be on the back foot because you're doing it for the wrong reason, and that's going to come through. Is that
absolutely?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but if you need to be liked, you're also going to have a hard time asking tough questions.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
It's gonna be a challenge for you to ask a lot of questions or to even push back.
Yeah.
Sometimes a prospect has a belief that is going to get in their way of being successful.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes they contradict themselves in a conversation. So if you have a high need to be liked, you're going to have a challenge to come back and say, I'm confused, Steve, what did you mean by that? And does that seem contradictory to what you said a minute ago? And that's sometimes absolutely necessary. It's got to be done, with some tact, but you can't do it if you have a high need to be liked.
Yeah.
So true. Gosh, you can take that into sort of any situation, can't you? That's, yeah. I'm really interested to know about what's one decision that changed the course of your career.
I made a decision. I was promoted to a sales manager role about 12 years into my career. And the CEO thought I would be a good sales manager for the same reason that many people get promoted. You're a good salesperson. So, well, maybe you can, whip these guys into shape and make them better salespeople. They're different skill sets. So I was offered the sales manager or sales director role at this company during a holiday party. So the fellows called me to the bar and said, hey, we want to offer this to you. And everybody was excited, and I was dumb enough to take it. And on the way home, I was explaining to my wife, and she was happy for me. It was great. But then she asked me this question. Have you ever managed anyone before? Because you can barely manage yourself.
Thank you, dear.
She wasn't wrong.
She didn't have a need to be liked in that moment.
Yeah, in that our relationship, she doesn't have a need to be liked.
Yeah.
But it was an honest statement that really made me think, right? And like, did I make a mistake? But over the course of a couple of days, I realized I didn't have the skills to do this. And I didn't have a good example in my career of a good sales manager. So I had to go out and invest in myself and learn, right? So the easiest thing to do is go get books and read books and then try to implement those ideas. Eventually I invested in some training for myself. And I did it myself without the company paying for it because it's me, it's my career, and I'm going to take that and own that for the rest of my career. So I think that was a pivotal moment where you realize you have an opportunity in front of you and you're not truly prepared and you didn't want to say no. So what do you do? I chose to try to deal with it and get better. And that first year was awful. I was terrible at it. I mean, we grew revenue and salespeople got a little bit better, but I was awful at it compared to where I am today, just through the experience and the additional learning.
Mm. Yeah, that's big, managing a team. Like you said, that's very different to just because you're good at sales doesn't mean you're going to be good at managing salespeople.
Yeah. And did you go back and say, well, dear, you were right? Did you have that conversation with your wife? Or
She before we got out of the car, she hears that a lot. She's very smart. She's highly competent at what she does. We just question her judgment because of who she married.
Yeah. Testing 1, 2. Hello.
Are we on?
Are we on? Hello.
Oh, hey folks. Let's take a quick pause to talk about our friends at HubSpot. If you've ever felt like running marketing, sales, and customer service all at once is, a little chaotic, HubSpot is here to change that.
It's an all-in-one CRM platform that actually works the way you think. From generating leads to automating follow-ups to helping your team stay aligned. Personally, I love how the automation tools handle the busy work so you can focus on the bigger strategy.
And here's the best part. You can start your HubSpot journey for free using the link in the description. And while you're at it, you're helping to support this podcast.
HubSpot isn't just a tool. It's like having a full team in one platform, helping you grow your business faster and smarter.
Alrighty, it's back to today's episode. All right, can we talk about, that leadership role and I guess by extension, team building? So leaning on your wisdom here, how do you build high-performing sales teams while ensuring people don't lose their soul in the process? And I love that phrase in a sales sense, not losing your soul. So what does losing your soul in sales look like, and how do you build a team to prevent that from happening?
It's a really good question. And I think if we go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, if you're truly trying to help people and you're a giver and you're trying to be a professional, you can't lose your soul if you're trying to help people. So if you switch that perspective of finding the right people for the team. So I've taken over teams, I've managed teams that I inherited, I've hired people, and what has to happen is if they're working, they're already with the company, then I think you have to give them an opportunity to pivot. So you need set expectations and to help them understand what needs to change and be methodical with it and help them and coach them. So if they have the skills, then you pull them out and you develop those. If they don't have they don't have those skills, then they need to be removed from the team. They can go be successful someplace else. But if you don't have that right attitude and you don't have the right mindset that this is about a long-term situation, we're trying to help people, and you're just thinking about it as I'm trying to help myself, then you're never going to get to that performance level, because sales is interesting from a team dynamic. I think of it as a family. And I've gone to like big family dinners at an Italian friend who had a big family, and they would invite me over for their big Sunday dinners. And there was a lot of yelling and screaming and arguing, right? and it's sort of like a sales team, right? There's competition. There's this friendly jabbing back and forth, and sometimes it's not friendly. But when an outsider come into that family and tried to pick on somebody that was not, you weren't in the family, if you tried to pick on them, you didn't get very far,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? Everybody turned around and defended. So that's what we're looking for in a sales team. We're a team, we're individuals, we're trying to hit a goal, we're trying to make money, and we're trying to be successful. But then we also need to be a team player and help each other and support each other. So it comes down to you gotta have to have the skills, but if you don't have that mindset and you don't have the will to do what's necessary, and I like to think of it as you need to do whatever it takes to be successful in the bounds of ethics and integrity. And that's a pretty wide berth
Yes.
of trying to figure out whatever it is that you need to do. So I was talking to a sales candidate just the other day, and I said, you fancy yourself to be a hunter, and she looked like she had the skills to be a hunter. I said, so tell me how you hunt. Tell me, if you have an opportunity with a company, but you don't know anybody, what do you do? So she does the research and she described what you can do digitally, but she says, I like to just go to the building and walk in the back door and navigate my way to the front. And if that doesn't work, I sit in the parking lot and wait for somebody to come out for a smoke break and just go talk to them and try to get as much information about who I'm looking for and who they know. And she had all of these little techniques that she had developed over the years because she had tenacity.
Yeah.
She had that commitment. So, it's this thing that it's just kind of in you to go out and do whatever it takes. So you look for that when you're looking for candidates, and you look for that when you're working with the team. Not everybody has it. That's why hunting is a specific role, and it takes a little time and patience to figure it out. and then you just have to coach people up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the weirdest or the toughest thing you've ever had to sell?
Oh, good one.
There was a luminary, a light, that mimicked the sun.
Mhm.
If you sat under the light, your biorhythms would change, right? It could be 8 o'clock at night, and the luminary would make your body feel like it's noon, and it would just move. So it's kind of cool.
Mm.
And it was built to look like a skylight.
Huh.
I think that's the weirdest thing I've sold, because it had an effect on people. But how did it get placed, right? You had to have the right situation for that. It worked really well in a basement or in dark, confined places where you could bring a little bit of light and give people some energy. It worked well in certain healthcare situations. But it was weird, because when they told me what it did, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. All right. And then they put me in a conference room for an hour with it, and it's like, wow, it actually changes how you feel.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't want that getting in the
That
wrong
was-
hands.
But it happens. That concept with LED lights is prevalent today. They can change the way a building looks and feels inside and out. That was, the Sphere in Vegas does that really, really well.
Yeah. Back to the team building thing, if there's a sales leader listening to us, and this may be a how long's a piece of string kind of question, but they thinking, I've got to get some training for my sales team. What constitutes good? I know, and I know it might be situation specific, but what would you look for would constitute good sales training versus mediocre sales training?
What are you trying to achieve? I think is the first question you want to look at. If you're, and make sure you're training for the right thing. Because sometimes people think we need to do closing training. We need to teach our people to close better. And I had someone call me about that a few months ago. So, can you do closing training? I'm sure. Well, why do you think you need closing? Well, our close rates have dropped. Okay, why is that? Right? In a 20-minute conversation, we realized that his sales manager had come in and changed the expectation of what a pipeline was supposed to look like. So people were stuffing a pipeline 5 times the revenue. So their close ratios dropped because of that, not because they couldn't close. Their skills didn't change. So I think it's indicative of making sure we understand what we're training for. And then if you're going to train, it's not done in a day, a week, or a month, right? You give people the training to understand what they're supposed to do. You give them the exercises, but then they need to be coached, right? As salespeople, we can't just tell us once and be done, right? We need to say the same thing 5, 6, 7 different times in different ways, much like a golf lesson, right? That golf teacher has to be able to say the same thing to me in one way, and it'll land differently with you. So we have to be able to navigate that. And so I think training is important, but it's really the last thing that should be done in a sales team to make them better.
Yeah. Let's talk about that success trail that you've got, because your clients often see revenue growth of up to 43%. I'd take that. I'd be happy with 43%. So what I'm asking, what's the common thread in their success stories that get that growth?
They're willing to travel the bumpy road to get there. That doesn't happen in a minute. So I think the thread is being able to walk down the path shoulder to shoulder with that sales team and with that sales leader or that CEO, and help them see the things that they don't see. So if we walk down a path together, they see the same thing I see. They see it from their lens and their perspective. So I can learn from them. I can understand what they're seeing, but I see it differently, so I can share with them what I'm seeing. and fill in some blanks. Call them blind spots, but it's a different perspective. I'm not pulling them in front of them, pulling them with me, and I'm not pushing them from behind. We're walking this path. It's much more collaborative.
Yeah.
I think that's a subtle thing, but important to, when you're working with a client, and that works from CEO level to the salespeople, right? It's the same. It's just different context, but it's really the fundamentals that are important. We talked about football before we started recording, and Vince Lombardi, who the Super Bowl trophy is named after, he would start practice every summer with the fundamentals, and he would literally hold up a football and like, gentlemen, this is a football, right? And start from that perspective. And that's what we need to do in sales, is make sure that we have the fundamentals right, the processes, the talent is right, the management is doing what they need to be doing, and we're supporting them.
Yeah. Do you get pushback on those fundamentals from, let's face it, from the ego of some people? Because to be good in sales, you've got to have a bit of, chutzpah about yourself and so forth. So do you get some pushback when you go to fundamentals? And importantly, how do you deal with that?
Yes, constantly.
Yes.
To your first question, it's expected. And I literally tell the CEO, before we get started, you're going to have people come to you and tell you, this guy's crazy. He wants us to work on some of these things and do things differently. So I set it up to let them know that it's going to be bumpy. But to deal with the salesperson who doesn't close 1,000%, they're not winning every deal. It's really getting them to see, we're not talking about you changing everything you're doing, and we're not looking for you to be inauthentic. We want you to be who you are. Make this your own. I'm going to give you sheet music. You're going to play all the notes, but you're going to play them with your instrument, right? But you just need to hit all of the notes in order. And that usually gives them enough freedom to operate in a way that, the way I would operate, right? I like to know where my boundaries are, because I'm going to go out of bounds from time to time. And I respect that in salespeople who are killing it, right? But you do want to get a little bit better. Would you like to make an extra $100,000 a year? Well, maybe we try a couple of things that works. So it's understanding what motivates them, and then how to talk about motivation with them. I'm motivated by money and success. Some people are motivated by learning and being part of something that's bigger than them, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So once you understand that, then you can speak to them in their language and have more success.
Yeah. Just on that a little bit, and I think I guess I'm asking you, and for leaders listening, like, how do you keep yourself evolving as a leader when it can feel like you've seen it all before? And that's the leader's ego coming up then about, I've seen this before, it's not new. So how do you keep yourself evolving in this world?
It's like a shark, right? A shark has to keep moving forward, otherwise it dies. And that's like us as humans. We got to be looking at getting better. So as a sales leader or a salesperson, you're always looking for an edge. You're always looking for something that you can learn that will give you a little bit better opportunity to win. It's a slight edge business. We can win or lose for the smallest of reasons. So if you don't have that desire to get better, then you shouldn't be in the position, frankly. I spend a lot of money and time working to get better. Books, courses. I have a coach. I have a mentor. It's always, I go to seminars, I go to conferences. I'm just looking for the thing that's going to give me an edge. And even if I learn something that I already knew, and it reminds me, oh yeah, you should be doing that because you learned that 20 years ago. You should still be doing that. So if you don't have that mindset, you really shouldn't be in that role because it's always evolving.
Yeah.
With your experience in seeing success stories and failures in terms of a sales team, what do you think the best sales team is going to look like 5 years from now? And what's going to separate the good from the great?
Fundamentally, sales has changed in the last 7 years. It's way different than it was in the 70s. But I think that at the core, we're the same. We have to work on those fundamentals. You still have to be likable. You still have to be a human, and you still have to know how to relate to people. And how we do that becomes faster. The world moves faster. AI is changing that. People are terrified and excited at the same time. And I think it looks very similar. We just have the ability to go faster, and that's not always a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Walter, what we like to do towards the end of our episodes is to get to know the person behind the microphone with our fast 10 questions. And so we're going to alternate asking you some really quick questions. We'll get you to answer in 1, 2, 3, or 5 words just really quickly. However, before we do that, I am curious. You're a cigar connoisseur. You've got a podcast called Sales and Cigars, and I've only smoked about 4 cigars in my whole life when my kids were born and so forth. I'm just curious, are Cuban cigars, or they're cracked up to be, are they the best in the world?
If you can get a real Cuban cigar, right? And there's a lot of people thinking they're smoking Cubans and they're not. They are different, right? Better is in the eye of the beholder, or in the mouth of the beholder, I guess. So they are different. They smell different. They smoke different. They taste different. Plenty of great cigars. You've enjoyed celebratory cigars, right?
Yes.
4 in a life. I had 4 cigars today, Steve.
My dad's a big cigar smoker, so you guys would get along famously.
Awesome.
He insisted we had a cigar bar at my weddings. We had the whole area designated just for people who wanted to smoke cigars. One really quick question. So if business really is a game, what is your definition of winning?
Everybody wins.
Ooh, I like that.
In business isn't monopoly, right? There isn't a winner and a loser necessarily in business. The company should win, the salesperson should win, the operations team should win, finance should win, right? It should be, the game should be allow your customers to prosper, right? If everybody's not winning, I don't think it's a long-term scenario unless you have a monopoly, and then we could talk hours about that.
Yes.
All righty, we ready to go? Our fast questions. You ready, Walter?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
Sure.
Are you an Android or iPhone guy?
Android.
Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Early riser.
I think we've covered this. First job, other than the paper route, what was the second thing you had?
First big boy job was a commercial real estate broker in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that would have been fun. What's your coffee order?
Coffee.
Yeah, just drip coffee. Yep.
Yeah, it's faster.
Yes, I agree.
What's the one thing you couldn't live without?
Cigars.
What's one word to describe your leadership style?
Transparent.
Oh, I like that.
Last book you read?
I just reread Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Wow.
Ooh, that's a good one. Best sales tool right now?
If you're in the category of CRMs, it would be Membrane.
Okay.
Networking event or one-on-one?
My preference is one-on-one.
All right. Text or call?
Call.
This has been great, Walter. We really appreciate your time and your very valuable insights. Now, look, we're just about out of time, so tell us where people can find you and learn more about what you do, your books, and your business.
LinkedIn. I'm the only Walter L. Crosby on LinkedIn, and my website is helixsalesdevelopment.com.
Awesome.
All right, and Sales and Cigars is your podcast.
Sales and Cigars. Thank you.
I don't know why I keep coming back to cigars.
He's fascinating. I
have
think you've got a
meaning in
new
my
follower.
life. Yeah. They have a meaning in my life for some reason. All right, that's been fantastic, Walter. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I've learned so much more about sales, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thanks.
All right, that's all we've got time for. Wherever you're listening, thanks for joining us here on The Business Game. We'll see you next time. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
For more insights, strategies, and stories to help move the needle on your business, we'll meet you back here on Thursday. Thanks for tuning into The Business Game.
If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected.
A big thank you to our major sponsor, SmoothX, for powering today's episode.
And join us again on the next episode of The Business Game, a
podcast that moves the needle.